It's getting worse. So a lot of things happened in the first event of the year. First of all, I was spot on with my breakdown. I never hear the end of it when I'm wrong, but when I'm right and spot on, it's crickets. Paddy got backed up to the cage, couldn't handle the uppercuts and hooks in the pocket, couldn't get a takedown and got dropped bad multiple times. But even before the event started, we saw an even scarier knockdown with poor sitcom level timing coming out of Michael Bisping.
I never have any sympathy for these guys. You got one job. Show up on weight, in shape. That's it.
It's part of the contract, isn't it? You've signed on the dotted line. You've got to go and get the job.
You're a professional fighter. It's not hard, is it? You have months.
Yeah, that was bad. Cameron Smotherman completely collapsed at the UFC 324 weigh-ins after making weight. Like, the dude completely fell face first into the stage, and man, look at his eyes. This dude was on the brink of death. Unfortunately, this fight was called off. He said on Instagram that he's fine now and didn't know what happened because he didn't think he cut too much weight, but that clearly looks like dehydration to me. And yeah, the Smotherman situation was bad, but we also had a couple bad weight misses on this card, such as Figueiredo going from this a couple weeks ago to then going to this, the brink of death, to not even make 135 and come 3.5 pounds heavier. And in Joe Rogan fashion, how the hell did this guy make 125? Then finally, we had a similar 3.5 pound weight miss as Alex Perez came in 128.5 for his flyweight bout against Charles Johnson. And even if the guys are making weight like Paddy, he still is cutting upwards of almost 40 pounds to do so. Or take Atiba Gauthier as well. He fights at 185 and he did come in at weight, but a couple weeks ago, he said he was walking around 235. That's 50 pounds that he has to cut. With two bad weight misses on top of a scary scene with Cameron Smotherman on top of guys cutting an insane amount of weight in general, you have to think something is going to change, right? I made a video on the weight cutting problem almost 3 years ago, and what has changed? Absolutely nothing. It's kind of like we've accepted that this is part of the sport. You've seen the edits on Instagram. You've seen the memes of TJ Dillashaw cutting weight. And I guess it's just part of MMA culture. But damn, after last week, it seems like guys are going to even more extremes to make weight and try to come in bigger and stronger. But in doing so, they're destroying their bodies even worse. Does it have to be this way? Now that we're in the Paramount era, can something change? Can we actually solve the problem of weight cutting? And how would the landscape of the UFC look like if everyone was fighting in their natural weight class? Alright, a quick summary for those new to the UFC. Weight cutting exists because one day, someone found out that if they can just make weight for that one day, they can rehydrate and come in 10, 20, maybe even 30 pounds heavier than the guy actually competing near their weight class. And when that happened, it was like a domino effect. Every fighter now wanted to come in at a weight advantage, and so many fighters wanted that advantage that pretty much everyone is cutting weight, to the point that you're actually coming at a huge disadvantage if you come in at your normal weight class because everyone else is going to be 10, 15, 20 pounds heavier than you. Dustin said it the best.
Because I'd rather just fight at my walking around weight, you know?
Yeah.
But if I fight at 170, these guys are 200 plus pounds.
Right.
And even if guys are cutting the weight without actually dying, making the weight and gaining it back to get that weight advantage, let me tell you, with all the other problems extreme weight cutting comes with, it really is a disadvantage all around. The biggest one is dehydration. We've all seen the TJ Dillashaw edits and others with the sweatsuit, in the sauna, in the hotels, looking like near death. These guys are extremely dehydrated, and even if they eat and drink all they want after they make weight, they're super drained, namely in the head. See, when you cut a lot of water and reach insane levels of dehydration, you start cutting the water in your head, or the cerebral spinal fluid. This is the fluid supposed to surround and protect your brain from hitting your own skull. And as we know, if your brain gets rattled enough and directly touches your skull, that is a knockout. So when guys cut a lot of weight, sure, if they rehydrate, they come in bigger, but often guys won't hydrate enough in one day to build back that cerebral fluid and leads to getting knocked out easier. Take Alex Pereira, for example, who's been weighing in like a legitimate 240-pound heavyweight. He at one point was weighing in at 185, dropping 55 pounds than what he is now. I've seen people on social media ask how Israel Adesanya was able to knock out Alex with this one punch when he's taking bombs from bigger and more dangerous strikers at 205. And well, there's your answer. Alex simply did not have enough cerebral fluid to withstand this punch, which was coming from not that big of a puncher and a punch that really didn't land clean to the chin or the temple, which is scary to think about how little fluid Alex had in his brain. Then you have the obvious eating disorders that come with extreme weight cutting, and this is the reason why we see retired fighters just blow up out of nowhere. And shit, non-retired fighters blow up out of camp as well. Sean O'Malley even describes the eating disorders fighters often get when they go from eating anything to practically nothing at all. So okay, weight cutting comes with a whole slew of problems, but are there actually any solutions the UFC can implement? I think the easiest answer, and the one Joe Rogan loves to spam, is adding more weight classes. The weight gaps as you go to the top get increasingly larger and larger. Flyweight to lightweight gaps are 10 pounds, but then after lightweight, you get to welterweight, which is a 15-pound difference. And like Dustin said, is a tough position for a lot of guys because you either stay at 170, where everyone is close to 200, or you have to cut an extra 15 pounds to get to 155, which is why we often start to see some insane weight cuts at 155, like Islam and Charles and Dustin. Then 170 to 185 is just as bad, and then you get to a brutal 20-pound gap between middleweight and light heavyweight. And side note, middleweight is often where you see the best physiques in MMA because you're forcing huge guys with a ton of muscle mass to cut a crazy amount of body fat. Anyways, then you get to 205 where practically everyone is basically a heavyweight. So yeah, having a 10-pound gap from 125 to 195 makes a lot of sense. But just imagine introducing a 165-pound division. Those guys like Islam, Charles, and Dustin, when he was fighting, would have a lot of room to cut to a reasonable 165 instead of 155 and not have to fight guys so huge because presumably those guys would be fighting at around 175 or heavier. Another possible solution to the weight cutting problem is what one is doing, which is the hydration test. Fighters have to pass a hydration test and make weight in order to be deemed eligible to compete, which you can read here. Some have been critical at how effective this test is, and some say it's easy to cheat in game, but it's better than nothing, right? And then you have my solution, which I think is pretty realistic and also healthy as well, which is continually weighing in fighters as you get closer to fight night. Sure, it'd be annoying for the fighters, but having guys weigh in and be within a reasonable range of say like 10 to 15 pounds, 3 weeks or 2 weeks out makes a lot of sense because having guys just have to weigh in for one night kind of incentivizes a last minute cut and then leads to shit like this. Extreme dehydration. With this solution, we can kind of track a walk around weight and have guys fight towards more of their natural weight when they're training instead of a weight they weigh in at for literally less than a minute. So I want you to imagine a world where these solutions actually work. We actually have guys fighting at the weight they usually weigh in at. What would the UFC look like? For UFC 311, the California State Athletic Commission actually released the weigh-in versus fight night weights, and pretty much every fighter gained around 20 pounds from weigh-in to when they actually stepped in the cage, which basically means the fighters in each division would shift up by a whopping 20 pounds. Flyweights would really be at 145, bantamweights at 155, etc. The only guys that would stay at their weight class would be the rare instances of like Yuri Prohaska, who only gained 3.7 pounds after weigh-ins. In this world, I feel like guys like Yuri, who have been fighting at their natural weight class while their opponents gain like 15 to 20 pounds and still win, would absolutely dominate this UFC. But this 20-pound shift would actually probably eliminate the 125 and 135 pound divisions because not a lot of fighters would be that light without weight cutting. Additionally, do you introduce a minimum weight for heavyweight? RDR, who fights at 185, can go up a whopping 27.5 pounds, which would technically be heavyweight as of now, which again shows how extreme his weight cut is, considering at one point during the weigh-ins, he was 50 pounds lighter than the heavyweights, and then after one day rehydrated to only 20 pounds lighter than them. With this insane weight cut the guys at 185 do, I think you would have to make heavyweight a minimum of 225 or 230. But isn't that crazy how much weight cutting and the lack thereof changes the sport entirely? These guys aren't the best fighters at 135, 145, etc. These guys are technically the guys that weigh in for that weight class for 1 second and are actually the best guys fighting 20 pounds heavier than that. We would actually get to see who the best fighters are at their natural weight class and fully hydrated and healthy if these solutions were actually implemented. No more drastic weight cuts, no more collapsing, no more moving up divisions and completely shifting the title picture because a weight cut is too hard. It would be perfect. But anyways, what do you guys think about the weight cutting in the UFC? Has it been getting worse? Is anything going to happen in the Paramount era? Are the execs at Paramount going to go, holy shit, Cameron Smotherman completely just fell off the stage? Should we do something? Should we implement more weight classes? How would the UFC look like? Anyways, I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on the situation in the comments section below. And thank you guys for always supporting, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.